It's the final race of the season for the Washington, D.C. Region Virtual Racing League, and we head to upstate New York and Watkins, Glen for the final 60-minute race of the season. Over 20 drivers and a half a dozen different platforms will go racing this 11-turn, 3.4-mile course. It held the first race post-World War II and the final race of our season. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by Tom O'Gorman for the final race of the DC Region Virtual Racing League season. Tom, we've had several months of racing every 2 weeks, flip-flopping between MX-5s and Mustangs and GT3 cars, but now one final time in 2021, at least in the spring half of the year, we're going to go racing with GT3s at a racetrack and with a car combination that is never a disappointment.
And it certainly has been kind of fun to flip things up a bit as real-world racing has come back. We've been racing less frequently, and it kind of makes it feel a little bit more special that we've come together twice a month, once every month per category, and this is our season finale with the fastest cars to GT3 machinery.
Watkins, Glen, New York, again constructed back in 1953. Tom, 3.4 miles around here. Take me through a lap of what it's like at Watkins, Glen.
Well, this is a perfect pairing. You start down a downhill front straightaway, dive into turn 1, lots of camber before the uphill S's at turns 2, 3, and 4. A massive elevation, barely flat out in these GT3 cars before you dab the brakes and chuck it into the bus stop. That's the inner loop at turn 4, essentially 4 and 5. Then into the outer loop into turn 6, which takes you into the boot. We have the laces first at turn number 6, then the toe at turn 7, uphill at turn number 8, 8 and 9, the hardest corners on the track in my opinion, the heel of the boot, and then exiting back onto the NASCAR Cup circuit at turn 9, finally flowing through turns 10 and 11. That completes a lap.
The lap around here is fast-paced, and in a GT3 car, the momentum is very high. Average speed's well over 100 miles an hour around here. We've got a 60-minute race. We're qualifying right now. We've got about 8.5 minutes left of that. The driver at the top of the board right now is maybe no surprise. Tom, DJ Alessandrini makes a return, and while he's already on top of the charts here in qualifying, he's also on top of the point standings for the series.
Yeah, and he only needs to finish 10th to take that win in Group 2 here for the Washington, D.C. Region iRacing Virtual Racing League. That wins him a Track Night in America entry, so he really wants to take that home. Again, only needs to finish, I believe, about 10th place, as he has won 2 of the races so far this season, finished 2nd place in the first opening round. But Jack Christie's keeping him honest. He's only 2 tenths back. And in fact, it was Thomas Layton who was fastest in practice. We'll see if maybe he can put a lap together. He sits 5th right now.
Jack Christie in the McLaren MP412C, maybe an unorthodox choice. We've seen car choice be something interesting over the course of the year. The cars have changed a handful of times throughout the year, but there's a look at the manufacturers in the top 15 or so. You see Alessandrini, Jack Christie, Andrew Pallotta in the Ford GT. That car has just consistently gotten better, and the driver has been solid from the beginning. Ken Ausiel 4th in the first of the Lamborghinis, and Thomas Layton, who you mentioned, in a BMW. So 5 different, make that 6 different manufacturers in the top 6. The only one we're missing would be Mercedes, which Andrew Chow has back in 8th right now. So a lot of diversity at the top of the order here tonight.
Yeah, that's 7 different manufacturers. It does make you wonder, that Ford GT is almost never used here in the iRacing service. If you just stick with it and get kind of good at it, maybe it does have something in the tanks. Andrew Pallotta is less than a half a second off of pole, sits 3rd right now. And he has done every round of the championship, 6th in the championship, easy for me to say. So unlikely for him to come home with the win and with the Track Night in America entry, but I would say he's done about the same with less than the rest of the guys did this season.
I'd say that's probably accurate. Tom Layton goes up to 3rd with a 146.664. Talked a little bit about the racetrack. Let's have a gander at the weather here today. And the temperature's reasonable, 76 in the air, 99 on the racetrack. It's a little bit up there, but Watkins, Glen doesn't typically get super temperature sensitive like we see tracks like VIR get. That track gets mighty toasty. We were there last week with the Mustangs and the MX-5s, and another huge congratulations to Murphy Nichols for wrapping up the championship there in the Mustangs. And unfortunately, Murphy will not be able to make it here tonight, but wishing him another congratulatory moment after winning in the Mustangs. Whoa, big wiggle for Pallotta at the exit of turn number 10. And as we make our way through qualifying here, we've got a fairly sizable grid here tonight, Tom, but one car I'm noticing that is taking up the majority of the spots on my list is the Ferrari. That's not something we saw at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised, actually, and I don't know if that's because we have newer drivers coming in. They were required to stay in the same car all season to be eligible for points, and I don't remember, you're right, I don't remember this many Ferraris. I do know that Francois Brou has been and won the entire championship, and it's good to see him leading the way as actually, as we mentioned, that Richard Spicer jumps him to take the top Ferrari spot. But I think those cars are definitely good on top speed. They'll probably race pretty well here, but they're not necessarily known for their acceleration, so it's not surprising to see the raw pace maybe not be there.
Another car I'm seeing more of this time around is the Mercedes-AMG GT3. That was a car that was at a severe disadvantage at the beginning of the season, but it's gotten some changes and updates along the way that have made it significantly better, specifically in the downshifting area, which is where the deficiency was. We're seeing a few more of them, but they're still struggling to break the top 10. Talha Sadiq right now is the highest of the drivers there. I think we've got 4 of them. Zach Rubin right now in a Mercedes, but has not yet made a lap. So 3 of them that have qualified and put down times at the beginning. Joe Camilleri is a driver that I don't remember seeing before, so relatively new name here. He rolls off in a number 4 Lamborghini. Adam Crandall and Giancarlo Schooler, who I believe we've seen once or twice before, but he climbs the hill here 110 feet from bottom to top.
Last driver I haven't talked about yet, it's in the championship contention, Ken Halseal, who leads the way of the Lamborghinis. There he is, sits 4th right now. He is 2nd in the championship and is the driver that is closest to dethroning Alessandrini to take that Track Night in America prize. But again, he needs to win this race with Alessandrini outside of the top 10. That essentially means a crash as far as Alessandrini is concerned, because he is definitely a top 3, top 5 contender if he finishes races. So it's a tall order for Ken, and he's going to need to pick up the pace just a little bit, about 4, make it 3 now tenths off the pole. But he'll be in there, especially with as much as draft takes effect here at Watkins Glen. This will be a tight one, I think, at the front.
You mentioned the draft, and the reason why is because Watkins Glen, while it has 11 corners, the spaces between those corners are often pretty enormous. Take the back straightaway, for example, over 1,800 feet from where this straightens out to where the bus stop begins. So climbing the hill, really basically the straightaway begins at the exit of turn number 1, and you climb that hill full out throttle all the way until about the 300 board here. Then you're hard on the brakes and into the bus stop, but you're still carrying momentum that will carry you all the way to turn 6. So there's a lot of racetrack here. And, you know, slipstream matters, yes, in the MX-5s, yes, in the Mustangs, but also, yes, here in the GT3 cars, especially because the gaps at the top of the board are so close. We've got 5 drivers in the mid to high 46s and even more drivers in the 47s and 48s not too far behind them. So very, very close grid. Right now there are 11 drivers within 1.3 seconds of each other, so it's pretty tight at the top. Alessandrini is in for the moment. Jack Chrissie's still out trying to go quicker in the McLaren. And at the moment, looks like he is on a flyer. We'll see if he'll go faster.
While we're talking about manufacturers, they did just recently announce as well that the Porsche 911 GT3R is officially coming to iRacing, which means we'll probably won't see Andrew Pallotta in that Ford anymore. I bet that one drops off the list, but super exciting for anybody who's a Porsche fan and an iRacing fan to bring it.
Everybody.
Yeah, so many. Yeah,
if you're
everybody.
a racing fan, you're happy to see that car. Look, we're not all Porsche fanboys by any stretch, but I love that car because it is so weird and so different. You don't get that a ton. You get different drivetrain layouts. You get the mid-rear and the front rear and all that. But to have the rear-engine rear-wheel drive car, especially when we get rain, oh boy, Porsche's going to be a popular choice, I think.
So we'll call it now. Next season, that manufacturer standings board down the left side of your screen will be all Porsches for the first season we do.
I don't know what the plans are for next season here for the DC Region SCCA. Obviously, us here at SimTV kind of backing down from streaming for the most part, but the SCCA was not one of those the series that was going to go away anytime soon. As you just went watching Alessandrini carve his way through a mess. Let's go watch and see what he saw at the windshield here.
Coming down to the outer loop, this is one of the other harder corners on the track. It just falls into the corner kind of bit, and it loosens the car up. You see a ton of smoke up ahead. You don't know what you're coming towards, and dodges a couple of cars on the outlap. He still has enough time to start one flyer. You see him trying to get a gap now, as he's definitely not on it right now.
This is more of a defensive thing than anything. I mean, there's really no risk of him falling far from the top of the board, but Jack Chrissie's out there, Tom Layton's out there, Halseal's out there. He wants to go faster. Andrew Chow jumps up to 6th in the Mercedes AMG, so brings the silver badge up a little bit higher on the list.
Make that officially all 7 manufacturers represented in the top 7. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool. And we also got confirmation that next build, iRacing will allow 8 cars in any given server, so that's a good thing for everybody as well.
Good news, Andrew. You can keep the Ford.
Into turn 1, Alessandrini begins a flying lap. Kevin Zhu's back with us this week in a Lamborghini, real tight to the fence at the exit of turn number 11. Now that wall in real life now has a safer barrier there that made that wall even closer to the racetrack. So if we ever get a rescan of this place, people have to tidy up that turn 11 a little bit.
Can confirm it is very intimidating coming through that corner and knowing you have to use every inch of that all the way to the wall, in real life I should say, and commit to that before you can really see it. Even that corner pretty blind on the entry.
Across the line, a couple of the drivers getting the last couple moments to begin a flying lap. Where is Ken Seal on track? He's down through turn number 6. Now that's a deceiving corner. A little bit off camber maybe when you go down there. That's a tricky one to get just right. Then you got up here into the toe of the boot, uphill, and a couple different ways to take this corner, but most people will sort of hug the inside. Then the long run down to the heel, which is an underrated passing zone. This is one of the slower corners on the racetrack and a pretty sizable straight leading up to it. This is not a bad corner to make a pass in. It's just easy to get pinched off there because that apex is pretty sharp.
Yeah, this is a unique track in that the best passing opportunities happen really early in the lap, but I agree that that is kind of your last passing opportunity, at least the last opportunity to get a run or set up a pass on somebody. So if you're not kind of getting it done by turn 8, especially in a GT3 car, it's probably not happening. We'll keep that in mind for after the green flag flies an hour later. If we have a race, it kind of comes down to that.
If you get really creative and really lucky, you can make a dive into turn 11 work, but that would be a real risk. Cross the line, checkered flag for Ken Seal. Does he go quicker? A 1:46.584, good enough for second. And here comes Alessandrini across the line. He doesn't need to do anything but maintain, but he will maintain. He goes a 1:46.596, stays the quickest, and is your provisional pole sitter, given that Andrew PALLOTTA doesn't go quicker. He's working his way up to turn number 9. Now, I think this is one of the trickiest corners on the racetrack. No banking here. It's very, very flat. You're trying to get power down, and very awkward exit for some. But PALLOTTA negotiates it nicely and has 2 more corners left. Whoa, there he goes. Gets up onto the curb. Big hit at the exit of turn 10. And that will call it for Andrew PALLOTTA. That will be his last qualifying effort of the season. All right, DJ Alessandrini, Ken Seal on the front row for our 60-minute race. Again, this is the last round of the season. Track Night in America entry to the champion. And again, Ken Seal has an opportunity mathematically to win the championship, but it's going to take a lot for DJ to fall off that top step. So the quiet birds chirping here at Watkins Glen International for the Washington, D.C. region SCCA Virtual Racing League. And we've got 25 drivers, 22 of which laid down qualifying effort. No qualifying lap by Darian Taggart, Zach Rubin, or Giancarlo Schooler, who never actually completed a lap. Alessandrini ran 8, the most of anybody in the session. Then it was Seal with 7, Jack Chrissy with 6. So a lot of laps running qualifying to go fast. We're going to have plenty of laps in the race to go fast as well. All right, we got 60 minutes, first lap. Always a sketchy one, Tom. Stay in line or try to grab some spots? What's the goal here?
I think the way the GT3 cars race, you kind of got to make it happen pretty quick and then settle in. You really have the best opportunity to pass when everybody's bunched up. You have everybody kind of on their heels a bit, and these cars do tend to string out and run single file pretty well. And at that point, you're just kind of waiting for the race to come to your car if you have that kind of car, or you're trying to light the world on fire early on and then set your gap. So the different cars, we're going to see those different strengths come through. The other thing I wanted to mention is we do have a 25-point incident point limit in this race, and especially with how high risk, high reward the bus stop can be for going fast. If you're racking up 1 incident point per lap coming through that bus stop, that is going to turn into more than 25 by the end of a 60-minute race. So definitely some strategy involved.
And this is where you really get caught out because you want to use all this curb here, but you get your center point over any of this grass, and that'll get you. And that's where a lot of people will get incidents around here. It's actually pretty difficult to get them anywhere else without crashing. Sure. The walls here are pretty close to the racing edge, so you don't want to find yourself off course anywhere other than the bus stop.
And we will see pit stops in this race, only for fuel. Tires won't be required, but everybody running a limited fuel capacity to ensure everyone will have to take 1 trip through the pit lane, top the cars off. We have seen that kind of influence the races this season over the past 3 months. So do have to plan ahead for how much fuel you need, how long you want to stay out. Do you run the car empty and refuel at the end? Do you run the car just to a little bit empty and top it off with a splash? There's a lot of options here.
And with a pit road that's relatively short, you're not going to be spending a whole lot of time down here, at least not like you would at a place like Spa where the pit road feels like you're on it for 25 minutes. Let's roll through the starting lineup here, Tom. On the front row, it's going to be DJ Alessandrini, the number 61. Ken Seal in the 23 starts on the outside of row 1.
Then in the McLaren, Jack Chrissy, it's 3rd place. Thomas Layton in the BMW alongside 4th, almost tied in qualifying.
In row number 3, starting in 5th, Andrew PALLOTTA in the number 96. Tala Sadiq starts in 6th in the 25.
Then Andrew Trowell brings the top Mercedes up into 7th spot. Richard Spicer in a Ferrari in 8th.
In 9th place, row 5, Francois Brou in the number 69 Ferrari. Morgan Burkhardt starts 10th in the number 2.
Kevin Zhu on the inside of row number 6 with his Lamborghini. Then Louis Alessi on his left.
In Row number 7, Peter Lausen starts in the number 56 car. In 13th, that is a Lamborghini. 14th, Elias Roman, the number 99 Mercedes.
Danny Gross in an Audi in the 15th spot alongside him. Timothy Saunders in the number 81 car. He starts 16th.
17th place, Steve Loving in the number 46 Ferrari. Dave Fitzgerald, the number 91 BMW, starts 18th.
Then Sly Stafford in a Ferrari, car number 719, will start 19th alongside John Williman in another Ferrari. Car 13 starts 20th.
21st place, Joe Camilleri, the number 4. That is a Lamborghini. Adam Crandall starts 22nd in a McLaren.
Then the last car we have gridded right now, Giancarlo Schooler in the 23rd position with Zach Rubin and Darian Taggart not making the grid.
So field rolling off now for one pace lap around here. Get those tires and brakes warmed up. About 34 laps if we're looking at this from start to finish. Probably about 33 once we factor in the pit stop. And DJ Alessandrini electing drivers right down here. But Ken Ausiel, I don't think should give up right at the start here and fall in line. I like being on driver's left here at Watkins Glen for the start. Get all that runoff room at the exit at turn 1. You can carry a lot of speed.
Yes, if you time that green flag right, you definitely have the opportunity to get the run through turn 1, through turn 2, and then you have the inside at the top of the S's for the first left-hander on the circuit. But you do have to almost have practiced where the green flag comes out here in iRacing at the start of the race. So if Ken Ausiel is perfect, he has a great opportunity here at the start of the race.
Then the run down towards the bus stop. This is going to be a crucial part of single filing yourself out. You're going to start too wide. You certainly can't go through here too wide unless you're real brave and real talented. Weather's dropped down about 10 degrees, 89 degrees Fahrenheit on the racetrack, so a little bit cooler conditions, a little bit nicer for the drivers out there to get these tires up to temperature. So 1 hour. Really the goal for DJ Alessandrini is to not crash. Everybody else is just out here to win. Now, does that create an interesting dynamic where the points aren't much of a factor from second on to 10th or third on to 10th? Or is it just going to be a typical race where everyone's sort of still points racing?
I have to imagine most of the drivers are not aware of their points, not particularly concerned. They're here for a good time and to enjoy the race. So I think we'll see a lot of good racing throughout the field. I have to imagine really the only driver who's thinking about it is Alessandrini because he's in that catbird seat to win the championship. He's basically just got across the start-finish line without any incidents. So that's not a great place to be as the only driver that has that in the back of your mind. He's just got to put it out of there and settle into a pace.
I think we're going to see very, very quickly the strengths and weaknesses of the different cars. Again, Watkins Glen sort of caters to the cars that might be a little bit more, a little faster in a straight line potentially, but also this track, while it has a lot of long straights and you would think that you'd want a lower downforce setup here, also a lot of these corners are really fast. So if you've got your car trimmed out for a little bit more downforce, that might not always be a bad thing here.
I think the lowest downforce you can survive is typically where people end up, and the drivers who may not have the best feel for the game, the best car control within the simulator are the ones that tend to dial up a little bit of wing, but you can guarantee everybody in the first couple of rows here is running the absolute minimum amount of downforce as possible to maximize the run up through the S's. Yeah,
that's really the crucial part is you know, these cars have a lot of power, but they don't have enough power to spin the rear wheels, and in that case, you want to have as slippery of a car as possible. If you're here in a stock car, it's not the aero that's your limiting factor. It's the fact that you can't put power to the ground heading up the hill. As soon as you crest, it sounds like all of a sudden you're driving on ice. Not a problem here with traction control and about 500 horsepower thereabout. All right, 34 laps, 60 minutes of racing for the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League season finale, group number 2 here from Watkins Glen. I'm Kyle Heyer alongside Tom O'Gorman. You're watching Sim TV, the last broadcast of the spring season. The green flag is in the hands of the starter, and green flag flies. We're racing at Watkins Glen. Oh, 3 wide on the run down to turn number 1. That's going to get dicey for about 5th or 6th spot. They get it sorted out now and head up to corner exit. Trouble behind them. It's a big spin. Timothy Saunders is around backwards. So is that of Steve Loving. So they're going to get tangled up, but don't look like there's a lot of damage. They'll continue.
Yeah, I don't see any major impacts, but we still have this pucker zone to go through. This is where if everybody survives, we are likely home and clear. And they're actually pretty single file due to the scatter in turn 1. Look at that. We have made it through the pinch point at the top of the S's.
Nicely done. Jack Chrissy on the defense from Thomas Layton in behind. A little bit of a pinch point here into the bus stop. Francois Brou on Kevin Zhu. They were side by side for a moment, or was that Louis Alessi behind him in the 43 that was making a pass? Either way, those cars similarly decaled. One's kind of the mustard on the ketchup, one's the ketchup on the mustard. As Danny Gross follows in behind, he looks driver's right. Now back to the left. Whoa. Big slide there for Louis Alessi. Gross is going to take that run, but had to downshift. Going to kill all the momentum.
Side by side, about 10 cars ahead. I think that is Chow and Spicer maybe side by side. No, it's Andrew PALLOTTA getting driven past by Richards, trying to make an attack, I should say. Is that Chow in the 6?
That's Talha Sadiq in the Mercedes.
Talha Sadiq, that is, driver came up a couple of positions out of nowhere. I was confused at where Andrew Chow had gone in his Mercedes, but Talha Sadiq is charging. Look at that.
And Chow has gone down one spot from his starting position. Whoa, spin! 25, Sadiq hard into the fence at the exit at turn number 9, and that's going to be a big drop down the order for a driver that we just mentioned had climbed up a couple spots. And this is real easy to do on cold tires here. Tom just gets out. Oh, he gets the grass, and it spins him around. Oh, that's a big hit there into the Armco.
Good to lock the brakes down and not come back across the rest of the field, but unfortunately the top Mercedes, I don't remember exactly where he qualified. I'm surprised to see him up that far, but it says he qualified 6th, so maybe that's just my memory going a little bit. But up at the front,
like 29, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know what. We'll chalk it up to having done a sim race in a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a while for both of us actually. So
top 2 breaking away though up at the front. Hausiel has kept Alessandrini honest, and Jack Chrissie's actually done a good job to claw them back. It was up to a 1.5 second gap, and now the McLaren is still in the picture. They're the all top 4 in frame for just a moment.
Yeah, the Jack Chrissie, again, the McLaren has this weird dynamic where as soon as you jump on the brakes, it just wants to go straight. It doesn't want to do any sort of braking while turning. That's great for Watkins Glen because most of the braking zones are real simple. Straight braking, and then you're good to go, do whatever else. It's not like tracks that we've seen at other places where you've got sort of weird kinks braking zones, like places like VIR. Pretty straightforward, and I think this McLaren is going to excel here. Trouble for Andrew Chow now. He's spun at the exit of turn 6, rolling backwards down the hill.
Surprised to see a couple of Mercedes dropping so early. They typically are one of the easier cars to control, and yet here they are dropping tires in the grass and going for big slides.
He was way offline trying to go around the Ferrari and ended up kind of bonking the rear end on the Armco after that. That's a frustrating way for him to tumble down the order. Back up front, though, Hausiel is keeping Alessandrini pretty honest. He's not letting him get away. And that 6 car, I think, is the fastest of the 3 of them right now.
I think it's absolutely the fastest. He's, again, clawed back from 1.5 seconds behind on the first lap. He's now only 9/10 behind the leader. He's got a car between himself and the leader, and he's less than a second from that lead car. So this is a 3-way battle as far as I'm concerned. Thomas Layton is going to be quiet there in the background. That BMW, though, tends to be pretty good on a long haul. And if it can stay right where it is, he might be able to surprise him on the pit stop.
Look at Ken Hausiel on the brakes through turn 1, how much he gains there. But DJ carries a bit more speed on corner exit. It's going to sort of slow in, fast out. The typical way you'd want to do that. And look at the ground that Alessandrini gains going up the hill now. We'll see if the slipstream can sort of compensate. But I think Hausiel's charging a bit more than DJ is at the moment. He's got Jack Chrissie coming pretty quick.
Well, and Hausiel can get away with charging those braking zones because now he's got the draft to pull him back up to the rear bumper of that Audi. They're going to dab the brakes, 2 downshifts into the bus stop. And look at Hausiel taking way more entry curve, that higher risk, high reward, taking an incident point potentially to try to keep up with Alessandrini here early.
Again, the incident limit is it's not particularly compressive. You've got quite a bit to work with. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue, but to keep an eye on it is a good idea. Oh, there's all sorts of trouble off here at the bus stop. Saw one car way off the background. That's Joe Camilleri. Dave Fitzgerald was all slow through there as well, so I think there was another little scuffle down here.
Yeah, the front of that car a little more mangled than we're used to. Oh, goes for a big slide. That was actually Solo. He might have had a contact a bit earlier in the race, but both of those drivers having incidents isolated from one another.
Whoa, Camilleri a little wide there as well. Morgan Burkhardt is spun it in the 2 car. Lots of attrition in the early laps here at the Glen. And it's a little bit surprising. Do you think these drivers, Tom, are being, they're just catching grass again, using too much road? Well, he almost rolled over there. Hit the fence so hard.
Yeah, it was a pretty solid clunk. Honestly, I think, if anything, we're just seeing drivers maybe a bit out of practice for the simulator. People spending more time in their real lives, and who could blame them? But it's been a month since the last time we've driven these GT3 cars, and if you don't spend a little bit of time to get back up to speed, a little bit of time to practice your visualization on the monitor and everything else, as we see another driver making the same mistake. This one looks like no grass involved. It's just the rear end coming around for Sly Stafford in his number 719.
Whoa, pulls ahead of Adam Crandall. And you mentioned, stepping away and jumping back in. Well, people see Watkins Glen on the schedule. They go, the Glen, that's easy. It's not. You can lap it, yeah, but to be fast and to push around here, it's hard to do this successfully. And this is a fast racetrack. Things happen very quickly, so it's not very forgiving when you step out and things go wrong. So I definitely think you're right. I think this is a moment of where people look at the schedule and go, oh, Watkins Glen, I've been there 100 times. It's fine. It's not fine. That's what we're seeing.
Whoa, as Ken Halseal goes through a big ride over the final curb in the bus stop. He has really closed up to the back of Alessandrini, but he had to because he's got a ton of pressure from behind, and he really let the back end hang loose through the fourth bit of that bus stop.
And down the hill now into the toe of the boot at the laces now. And Halseal looks like he's got more pressure from Jack Chrissy than he is applying to Alessandrini. So again, I do think that this 6 car in the orange and blue McLaren is the one pushing the issue at the moment. We'll see if Halseal goes defensive or if he feels confident enough to stay in line. Looks like the latter.
Back off or get bit, he says with the back of the wing. But if he's smart, honestly, if Jack Chrissy goes for the move, you just let him have it. He's clearly the faster car, and we're 53 minutes remaining in this event. That's a long time to fight off somebody for the wrong position. They want to be trying to win, not second place.
Well, there's a look at the lap times. A 1:46.659 is the best lap Chrissy's run. Compare that to a 46.8, 2/10 faster for the third place car at the moment. So Jack Chrissy's definitely the quickest car on the racetrack at the moment. No one else is even running in the 46s. These 3 are on a league of their own. More trouble. Whoa, this is a multi-car accident. Francois Brou and looks like Kevin Zhu also collected in that. Kevin Zhu in the orange and white Lamborghini. Oh, he just lost it in turn 11, and that might be that might be one of those low downforce situations. Maybe, I mean, kind of chuck the car in there. And the Lamborghini is known for this sort of weird mid-speed stability issue. We see this at VIR happen a lot. Just gets in there, kind of gets off the brake a little late, destabilizes the car. Big hit there. And who was that almost got into it? I want to say it was Danny Gross. I think he had a really good view of this right on board.
He's got a great charge going too. He's at 7th now after this incident, but it's just a mid-engine thing, I think, maybe more than a low downforce thing. Zhu loses the back end and unfortunately collects. The driver who is known as Mr. Clean, Francois Brou, typically finishes these races without an incident point or a scratch on the car. And unfortunately, that is not how he's going to end this season. But check this driver out. Danny Gross is up from, I think, 15th to 7th. Dang.
That's a really good climb. Great looking car too. GoPro livery looks great on this. As he works his way down into the boot. Up front, no changes there. Battle for 16th place. Adam Crandall in the Nyan Cat car. Andrew Chow in a forward climb after his slide and spin down at turn 6 on lap 2 or 3. Here he comes to the outside. 24 moves over, pinches him. That got tight there for a moment.
Oof. And remember, Andrew Chow was the top qualifying Mercedes, so this car has a ton of pace. Even with the damage you see on the back end of that car, he is definitely going to be quick. Slices underneath, goes side by side, now pinches the inside of Adam Crandall and puts him in the position he does not want to be. He brakes early and lets Chow through.
He's definitely quicker right now, but that got a little bit scrappy back there. To move forward just a little bit, let's find Louis Alessi in the number 43. His teammate just found his way to pit lane. Giancarlo Schooler just ahead of him, and we didn't really mention a lot about this 20 because he started this race dead last. Here he is at 8th. Where did that come from?
That's incredible. This is a driver, I think he hopped in pretty late, right before qualifying. Didn't have a time in the books, but clearly has done his homework. Shows up in the Ferrari, and I believe, is he not now the top running Ferrari, maybe the second behind Richard Spicer?
Yes, second place Ferrari. That is pretty spectacular and continues to climb the order. Well done. And as for the manufacturers, the only one we're missing in the top 7 now would be that of Mercedes, the highest running Mercedes, Elias Roman, back in the 99. Elias Roman started the race back in 14th. He's up 4 spots into 10th. So a couple really good races already beginning. With Roman up a handful of spots. Schooler up a handful of spots. Just some really good climbs and a handful of drivers already out. Francois Brou done for the day. Kevin Zhu already out, and so is Steve Loving, who was one of the drivers involved in that turn 1 collision early in the race. Love the sounds of GT3 racing around Watkins Glen. This is a nostalgic combination for me. My first experience of sports cars at Watkins Glen was back in 2008, watching what was at the time, the Rolex Grand Am Series on Friday night. And I was just blown away that they could race in the rain when the NASCAR guys couldn't go out there and do that. And they still can't do that, even though they are technically supposed to now.
I have enjoyed seeing a lot of that on the internet.
Did you watch any of the COTA?
I did not. I've only seen the aftermath.
Oh, man. It was real bad.
NASCAR in the rain still is
entertaining,
not
yes.
quite there.
But not there. You're right.
I remember, so Watkins Glen is your nostalgia track. Mid-Ohio is mine. And I remember the Xfinity race in the rain at Mid-Ohio a couple years ago. It was a very similar situation where most drivers could not figure out what to do. Mid-Ohio is a little bit more excusable than COTA, in my opinion. That place is a mess in the wet, but Either way, they put on a show, we'll say.
Just being good at what you're doing and being entertaining are two different
They're
things.
not always mutual, that's for sure.
No. Back to 8th place, Giancarlo Schooler and Louis Alessi. I'm watching these two carefully because Alessi is a little bit quicker, and both of them just ran their best lap time of the race, which is not unique to them. There's a handful of other drivers that just did the same, including Morgan Burkhardt in the 2, but these two still on top of each other and running tit for tat in the Ferraris right now.
Takes a peek out, probably more for visual than anything, gets a sight line on the entry to the bus stop and loses a bit of speed through, maybe a bit of aero push even off the back, Ferrari versus Ferrari, but you see the pounding of the curbs for Giancarlo Schooler. That is certainly a driver who has practiced going through there at least a couple of times before this race, even though he didn't get a time in the books for qualifying. But Louis Alessi is certainly keeping him honest, both rolling down into the laces now.
That movie wasn't as popular in theaters.
Which?
Ferrari versus Ferrari.
Yeah, that's true.
Out front, it's still a battle, still a 3-horse race, but right now it's the Raging Bull that's stuck behind the 4-ringed Audi out front.
The other thing I'm watching is in the background, every once in a while, we see the BMW of Thomas Layton, and he is kind of falling back towards Andrew Pallotta. If anything, they've fallen off the back of the lead 3, and you see Layton was a little uncomfortable coming out of turn 9 there, squares it up. Pallotta is on it and has been at least a 10th, maybe a 10th or 2 quicker every single lap for the last couple of laps, so it's still 1.5 seconds between the two of them, but Pallotta has a really solid top 5 run going and might, if he gets a sniff of the draft, find his way up towards the back of Thomas Layton's bumper.
I'm always amazed that he can make this car go because it just looks so stiffly sprung. Every time you see it hit a bump, it's like a go-kart. There's no suspension at all, but he's managed to make it work, and Watkins Glen is actually, other than the curbing, is one of the smoothest tracks out in North America, or at least right now, with the repave as of 2016. So it's pretty smooth, and you're going to get away with a lot of the poorly sprungness of this car. I would not take this car to a track like Sebring and expect to have a very good time, that's for sure. But Halseal is now, a little while ago, he had the 6 all over his rear bumper and was sort of distracted. I think now he's laser focused on the tailpipes of the 61. Target fixation, though, is easy to get yourself caught in that situation.
Yeah, he certainly turned up the wick just a little bit, and he only needed to go a little bit because now he's got the mirror full completely on Alessandrini's Audi, but it only took that slight bobble. Remember a couple of laps ago, maybe 5 or 6, he got the rear end walking just a little bit too much to the bus stop, and that's what dropped him off the back, and it's taken him a little while to get back up to Alessandrini, even with the draft. So I don't know that these guys are really got much in the tank for Alessandrini as he's continuing to lap right in the high 46 range. The fastest car is still Jack Chrissy, and he is so consistently just got nowhere to go with it. These guys are in qualifying trim.
Well, I'm just keeping my eye on the lap times. They all just ran their best lap of the race, all the top 3. But the quickest, again, was Chrissy, and the second quickest was Halseal, and the third quickest was Alessandrini. Now, there might be some slipstream playing into that as well, but, you know, we've said that Alessandrini's been the slowest of this group, and that's been true since the drop of the green flag, but he's fast enough to stay out front. You can't just be a little bit faster. You got to be fast enough to get the pass done, too.
Well, that's the thing. He's got the double whammy going for him of he's doing it by himself, but he's also been the most consistent, and that's why he pulls those little gaps. Look at that. He's got 3 or 4 car lengths across the start-finish line. Something happened in the last couple corners to Halseal, and he's dropped back off just a bit. He runs a 1:47.1 that time through, so that's one of the slowest laps we've seen out of any of these top 3 since the green flag flew.
So maybe not going the right direction or distracted momentarily, but he drops out of the mirrors of Alessandrini and into the windshield of Jack Chrissy. McLaren is known for being pretty good in the straight line here, but backs out. I think he's feeling pretty confident here. Andrew Chow, issues for him and more damage to the front of this Mercedes, this time at the exit of turn number 9.
Yeah, pulls a pulls a Tala Sadiq there. Another Mercedes driver, both of them making the same mistake in the same spot. What I was going to say, that for the benefit of the doubt on Halseal and Chrissy, is they're going to be dealing with aero wash a lot behind the rear end of that Audi. So the consistency does make a bit of sense. Halseal is having to take some more risks, but also doesn't have the front downforce under that car on the front of it that Alessandrini will have.
Only a handful of McLarens. I feel like we saw more of those at the beginning too. So I think we've had a couple people shift around and sacrifice all the rest of their points. But again, at this point in the season, I'm not sure that the car is making a significant difference in the driver. But these front 3 are probably going to run like this for a while, and I think there's also some fuel saving potential here. for Hausiel and for Chrissy. That Alessandrini's he's doing all the work pushing the air out of the way, so that could be something to consider. I think a similar thing could be happening back here with Schooler and Alessi. Alessi seems like he's in no rush to get by the 20 car, even though at least a few times before he was quicker. But now they got Peter Lausen and Elias Roman coming, as well as Dave Fitzgerald back here a little ways, who's sort of running his own race. Started in 18th, he's up 6 spots.
Make a great point about the front three, especially if they were to pit as close as they are together on the same exact lap. They might leapfrog each other and come out in the exact opposite order because of the amount of fuel saving they're able to do. But this McLaren looks so strong up the S's, and this is the point on the track where consistently Alessandrini has a bit of a gap. So he's definitely dialed that car in to set himself up for success down the straightaway. Look at that. They're not anywhere close to him.
Yeah, but does the McLaren run out of steam as it climbs the hill here, Tom? Is that a concern? Because you can be great climbing the S's, but if that's where you're going to peak out and then you run out of steam on the straightaway, that won't do a whole lot of good either.
I don't think so. I think Chrissy's lifting and just completely content to save some fuel, sit in this spot. As long as he's right here with these guys, he is in a great position to leapfrog them on those pit stops.
Still a little ways away from that, about 17 minutes into this 60-minute race. And it's still pretty tight here at the top. We'll jump back to 8th place again. We've got a 4-horse race beginning to formulate with the Prancing Horses leading the effort. And trouble for one driver at the exit of turn number 11. And I think it was Tala Sadiq or Joe Camilleri. Let's have a look. Oh, Tala Sadiq grabbed the grass again. And he did save it, but there was some contact there. That's what happened.
Both got away with that one quite a bit, although some damage onto the front of Camilleri's car. That might have actually been from his trip in the bus stop.
Yeah, it certainly didn't help. If the panels weren't misaligned before, they definitely are now.
Just did some quick mental math. These cars are allowed around 75% fuel capacity for these races, by my understanding, and that would mean the pit window opens with 9 laps complete. We are working lap number 10, so in theory, you could pit now. You might be cutting it a little bit close, but if you were to pit now and top the car back up, you should be able to make it pretty close to, if not all the way to the end. So I don't think we'll see anybody really pit for much, much longer, maybe halfway or more into the race, but the pit window should be open pretty close to right about now.
Side note about this Mercedes C. Lewis Alessi pull off to pit lane. The damage on the front of this car, I was talking with the CrowdStrike folks back at COTA a few weeks ago about the damage and the repairs to the cars whenever they happen. And I think it was CJ Moses that told me that there are panels on the Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo that cost more than a TCA car.
I believe that.
Which is crazy to me.
I believe that.
To even consider. So, and the splitter is one of the things that they go through a bunch of. And he was saying that splitter is about $15,000 to $20,000.
Yeah.
So, oops. Don't scrape that when you're pulling out the driveway.
Yeah, if you take a look at Peter Lausen's Lamborghini there, just look at the grille right on the front, that small square grille. I had a crew chief friend that crewed for a 911 GT3R, and it was a very similar grille. He pulled the mesh out and said, "Do you want to guess what this costs?" Just the mesh. And sure, tell me. $1,500.
Oh, my God.
And they have to replace it every single race because, of course, it gets scraped full of everything. So GT3 is a different ball game.
It certainly is, as Elias Roman using that Mercedes AMG to get right to the rear tailpipes of the Lamborghini of Peter Lausen. I always wondered, like, if you were to take every part off the car and sum it up, if you were to go buy all the parts from a dealer, what that would actually be with the markups and everything. I'll bet you like a Toyota Camry would be like a $70,000 car if you did it that way, with all the markup for each individual part. It's got to be crazy, because those little plastic clips got to cost them 5 cents to make, but they're $4 for a pack of 4 or whatever. Then I would always I'd love to see what that would be.
Never thought about that.
I mean, because
someone call them Mythbusters.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if they're long gone now. Adam Savage has a YouTube channel. Right?
Call him. He'll find out.
All right. Well, 40 minutes to go. We've had a couple drivers hit pit lane. Lewis Alessi is the only one, I believe, who hit pit lane that didn't have a major issue before. Now, he pit right back out into traffic, so that's a consideration. He's got some clean laps going, but he's going to catch people.
Honestly, he pit into pretty good traffic, though. He's right behind Andrew Pallotta and Thomas Layton, so he's a lap down in quote-unquote traffic, but he's following some really fast cars, and if he can kind of stick with them or use them as a rabbit to chase, he might be able to leapfrog the cars he was with. I keep saying leapfrog tonight, but I think he was following Richard Spicer.
He was following
Giancarlo Schooler in
yes.
8th. That's right. So we'll keep close tabs on whether or not Louis Alessi is able to leapfrog Schooler with that. I really like where he was at with that, because he was maybe looking a little bit stuck behind Schooler. And with that move, he might. Again, I just pointed out that the pit window should be open. He should be good to go to the end and maybe put in some good clean laps.
So Alessandrini beginning to stretch out this gap a little bit. Where does it start to get uncomfortable for Chrissy or Hausiel that Alessandrini is ahead? I mean, right now it's still 7/10 within drafting distance, but there's got to be a point where you go, oh, I don't know if we can catch him.
Perhaps. Alessandrini did just set his personal best lap last time through, so that Audi is getting quicker and quicker. Hausiel and Chrissy were both, I mean, close enough, but a little bit further off. So we're going to have to watch the ebb and flow and see if that was a fluke or if that continues to be a trend. The trick here is Alessandrini is getting lighter and lighter, as are they. So if his car's set up to go really fast in qualifying trim, he's getting closer and closer to that qualifying trim as we speak.
And another reason why they could be getting faster on top of the fuel burn is that the track's actually getting cooler. Clouds have come over the racetrack here. Look from high above, you can see it's overcast here now, for better or for worse. So that's going to make the track a little bit quicker. And this, again, is an average temperature taken from across the entire surface. So some areas of the racetrack will be a little bit better than others, as we've got Elias Roman hitting pit lane now from 10th.
I couldn't tell if it was getting overcast on our screen or if the sun was going down outside, actually. But you're right, it is definitely darker in the simulator. And it's an evening race here tonight, so the temps will continue to go down. The sim time, I think, is about 5:30 p.m. Right now. I don't know Army time. Sorry.
You're right. I only knew Army time because the original Microsoft Train Simulator from way back in the day only did military time. And so I had to learn real fast what 1750 was. I figured it out when I was 6.
Should have played that game.
Yeah. No, actually don't.
Last time through, all three of these drivers met or beat their fastest lap of the race, so these cars are certainly getting really, really fast. I don't think they have to worry about Alessandrini driving away so much. They just got to keep him honest without burning their cars down. Don't forget about Leighton. He's still in the background in the shot. And Pallotta too, but Pallotta is certainly weakened just a little bit. He was starting to put the pressure on Leighton maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes ago we pointed it out, but at this point I think they've stabilized.
Keeping an eye on Leighton. He actually lost a full second last lap by, so I'm wondering if this is a trend or if he just made a mistake. But he is still within striking distance, with about half the race, a little bit more than that remaining in this. Now he's right back on pace and was actually the quickest driver in the top 5 by 0.2 that time through. So certainly just a fluke that last time by.
That's actually the fastest lap of the race with that 46.5.
Yeah.
He dirtied it in the bus stop, so it's not going to show up on our timing score. Our
Screen.
official best lap, but yeah, that's fast.
So other battles have begun to fizzle around here, just sort of clicking off laps. We'll have about 20 to go next time by, but I'm curious to see what the pit stop scenario is going to be. Saving fuel, Tom. If you're Hausiel and Chrissy and you saved a little bit of fuel, do you want to actually run longer than Alessandrini, or do you want to just follow him into the pits and just try to close the gap on entry?
I'd follow him in. Try to jump him and stick with him, because if you don't follow him in and something happens, you get separated, then your race is over. If you do follow him in and you don't follow him in and you don't pass him in the pit lane, you will come out right behind and still have plenty of an opportunity to work your way by.
Gotcha.
That makes sense?
Yeah, no, but it's fine. There's a lot of like following or don't follow, but then it's fine, and then you flip-frog.
Yes, if Alessandrini pits first and Ken Hausiel stays out and something happens to Hausiel, he's now lost touch with Alessandrini. If they pit together, worst case, they come back out in the exact same position, and Hausiel has the rest of the race to continue to work his way by.
You crew chief now too?
I try. Just don't ask me things about military time.
Maybe not. On to the 10th turn of the 11 here at Watkins Glen, and you can see that sun getting pretty low in the sky, as you mentioned. I wonder, we might not quite get to headlight time, but we're going to be pretty late in the day here at Watkins Glen. Elias Roman, Louis Alessi, Sly Stafford, the only drivers to have hit pit lane to return to the track. Joe Camilleri has also done that as well, but it's down the order. Got that fast repair, so the car's looking good.
Ken Hausiel resets fast lap of the race, also dirty through the bus stop, but it doesn't matter. The raw pace is there, and he closes in about 1/10 of a second on Alessandrini that time through. Chrissy flounders a bit, and he was a full half a second off pace from the last for the drivers ahead of him.
That was not a great run for him that last time through. Look at how much kind of just gained at the bus stop there on the entry. He's he's chucking the car around a little bit more. That's something I think the Lamborghini responds fairly well to at the higher speed tracks, is you can really kind of throw it around. It'll just do it. I found out real quick when we were racing these cars back at Daytona that the Lamborghini, of all the cars, has the most efficient braking while cornering, is what I found, especially in the kink braking zones. The ABS system on that car felt really, really solid in comparison to cars like the McLaren, the Audi, or the Ferrari. So there might be some advantage in that area that Hausiel is able to use to gain a little bit of time. Sun's back out here just a little bit. Timothy Saunders hits pit lane from back in 14th. And we hit 20 laps to go.
Still only, I think, maybe 4 drivers have made their scheduled pit stops. You know, a couple of cars have to take pit stops due to damage or other things, but I'm keeping track of Elias Roman and Louis Alessi specifically have definitely made their scheduled pit stops. We're going to see a waterfall of those pit stops coming here in just a little bit as we just hit halfway through this race, or at least next lap we should. Yeah,
we're getting pretty close to it. Across the line, Alessandrini runs another lap, and Hausiel still a little bit quicker. See if Thomas Layton can go faster. 146.451. That was a clean lap, and that was our best lap of the race by a 10th and a half. So wow, the BMW is really getting strong, but he's got a little bit of work to do to get back up there, and it's a shame because if he was right with him, I would say that he's probably my favorite driver to win the race because he continues to get faster as the run goes on.
That is, and without draft, that is flying. He closed in almost 0.7 of a second on Jack Chrissy that time through, and that's just so motivating too when you start to see that car in front go from a spec, you start to see the colors that are on it, and then all of a sudden you're there. It's really, really exciting and just kind of keeps you pushing hard.
I can smell you.
Yeah, exactly. Or in that case, you can smell the flames off the back.
Yeah, roast someone's barbecuing up front. And that would be Jack Chrissy.
Chrissy, well off pace last time through as well. You see the gap has really formed between the top 2 and this McLaren. So he's maybe struggling a bit with tires. Who knows if he might be in that kind of awkward phase where the cars burn off enough fuel, but they don't have good enough tires to make up for it. And the car gets to be a bit of a handful through the middle phase until it runs out of fuel and is fast again.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed the last build or so here at iRacing is that the sports car tires seem to really have suffered. They don't like to get beat up on and don't like to go double stint. So you can make them last, but they're going to drop off in pace pretty significantly, and that might be biting Jack Chrissy right now. He might have just beat up on him for a few laps and cost himself some time. Up front, though, Hausiel right back on Alessandrini, and DJ runs a bit wide up on top of the curb and certainly feeling a little bit of pressure, knowing that no mistakes allowed with Ken so close. And I'm going to bet that they pit right at the halfway point and try to maximize their situation, but they might just go longer until they run out of fuel.
I think they'll go all the way to the end of the tank just because there's no traffic. I think if Alessandrini was seeing himself catch some traffic, he would probably pit right before he caught them. The closest car is Timothy Saunders, who's up in the bus stop, so they've got a couple of laps at least, worst case, before they catch some traffic. And I think that they'll stay out absolutely as long as possible.
Andrew PALLOTTA hits pit lane from 5th spot in the number 96 Ford GT GT3. He's on down. We'll see how he does. And I think, again, the pits here at the Glen, there's not a ton of time to gain. The entry and exit are pretty straightforward, so it's not like there's a lot of opportunity for mistake in gaining ground there, but getting it nice and clean. That was 40 seconds flat on pit lane, which is the quickest of anybody we've seen so far. Elias Roman was a 41.1. Now I guess that gives us a benchmark to monitor these front couple when they finally hit pit lane.
Check the gap between 3rd and 4th. Jack Chrissy way off pace yet again. Thomas Layton continues to close up, and that is visibly closer every time we've looked. They're within the same camera shot now. Layton was a 47.5, Chrissy a 47.5 last time through. That's a full second off of his pace. Best case scenario, Tom Layton in the 46s still. He is coming hard in that BMW.
Yeah, and again, the lap times that he's running are quicker, sort of, than the front 2. But they've been sort of flip-flopping back and forth, whereas he's been consistently faster than Jack Chrissy. So if it's not a race win, putting himself on a podium, at least in the short term, seems pretty likely. This time through is the official halfway point of this race. We'll hit lap number 18 of approximately 34, so definitely past that halfway point. No other takers across the line this time through, at least from the top 5. Well, I guess maybe not quite. Maybe a little too early to say that. We'll see if Richard Spicer hits pit lane. Spicer will stay out, so will Danny Gross, potentially. Also has pretty clear racetrack, so he's going to stay out. Watching the gap up front here, because this is within 2/10. This is striking distance where if you get really gutsy, you can just chuck it down there and catch DJ off guard. I don't think there's much of an advantage doing that right now, but when? I mean, do you wait till the last lap? Do you wait till 5 to go? When's your move?
I think it's within the last 10 minutes for sure. So maybe 7 to go, 6 to go. You can start trying, and I think really anytime after the pit stop, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ken start to get real racy, because at that point he might be able to make it stick all the way to the end. If it was in a Miata race, last lap, maybe 2 to go, but otherwise, I think these cars can kind of race in a way that you just start to charge at some point.
Yeah, I think the issue is that if DJ Alessandrini gets past, he's not going to wait very long to get back to the front. I think he knows the strength of being the race leader, so you don't want to do it too soon because he'll just drive right back by you, and trust me, he's good enough to do that. So drops a wheel off in the dirt there. Down to the last 28 minutes of racing, 17 laps. John Williman has come down pit lane. Looks like Adam Crandall is also going to come down, and he's the only other McLaren out on the racetrack here tonight. Only other one other than Jack Christie, who again, feeling pressure from Leighton. Curious to see if Thomas Leighton will come to pit lane before he gets to Jack Christie, just to save himself the effort.
It's not a bad call, that's for sure. And he's yet again the fastest car on the racetrack for 2 laps in a row. That BMW, we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast that it is a good long distance car, good long pace. And it is coming true right now with certainly less than half the race to go, but only just.
Richard Spicer hits pit lane in the number 65 Ferrari from 5th. So the floodgates are beginning to open, just being cracked open at the moment. I do think all the front runners are going to come together, at least all the drivers that are within the same eyesight of each other. Again, I don't think that there's much of an advantage of trying to pull an over or undercut here, especially if you're not taking tires. Also, we should note that while the Audi and Lamborghini are different, and the Evo kit makes the Lamborghini even more different than the Audi, but these are roughly the same car underneath, so in terms of vehicle differences, there's not a ton, at least mechanically, between the front 2 cars.
Yeah, the major difference, I think, is the gear set. There's a slightly shorter gear ratios in the Lamborghini, so it's a slightly faster accelerating car, but it's as near as makes no difference. It's essentially the same car, and that's why they sound identical. They fit within the same chassis dimensions, etc., etc.
Same motor, exhaust system is a little bit plumbed a little differently, so they have a bit of a different rasp. There's the Audi, there's the Lamborghini, so a bit of a different rasp, but still very much the same power plant underneath. Whoa, bit of a bobble there for Houseel, had to jump out of the throttle for a minute. That corner's a lot sketchier in the sim than it is in the real world now, with the grass on exit instead of the pavement. Giancarlo Schooler and Danny Gross is a battle for 5th. Neither of these drivers have made a pit stop yet. Schooler going by Danny Gross. Again, really impressed with the speed out of that number 20 Ferrari.
Yeah, from 23rd on the grid, that is an immense charge. And I was going to say Danny Gross is having a killer race up from 15th to, at the time, 5th. But now Giancarlo Schooler has trumped that massively from 23rd to 5th.
Schooler jumped out of the throttle, but was able to carry enough speed that he might be able to defend this. They've got a lap car, Phil Camilleri, to get by. Big dive by Schooler into turn 1, and whoa, Gross is going to follow through. Gets a pretty decent run on corner exit. We'll see if he takes it. Nowhere really to go up here. Then stringing their way through the S's. Now the S's are single file in most things here at the Glen, but in a GT3 car with the downforce, you can sort of get away with it. You're just not going to go very fast. But there is enough stability to run side by side if you were crazy enough to do that there. Morgan Burkhardt hits pit lane from 9th spot. My eye on the leaders, because any lap could be the lap that they come hit pit lane.
That leaves just the top 7 having not made their pit stops in using the rough math I did, we'll say maybe 10 or 9 laps to go is the absolute cutoff. We're in working lap 20 of an assumed 34 laps, so they could get as many as maybe 3 or 4 more laps out of this tank of fuel, and I think they'll try to get every ounce of that if they can. Thomas Layton slipped up just a little bit last time through and ran a high 47. That's the first lap he's lost distance to Jack Chrissy, but this time he's certainly clawed back again.
Yeah, right back up to the 46.6s, so right back on pace with where he was.
I almost wonder if he got a cut penalty and had to slow down on that one lap, because that was over a second and a half off the pace he had been running.
That's likely, and the slowdowns you can get here mostly revolve around the bus stop, usually at the last corner of it. In the real world now, the exit has been significantly widened with the addition of about a car width and a half of curbing, but here it's only about a quarter of a car width of curbing, so if you get a little bit aggressive there, you can find yourself off course and with a cut course. There's Saunders going by Burkhardt. Burkhardt just came out of the pits. These guys are going to be locked in a fierce battle with the Italian racing machines for 12th spot. Burkhardt fresh out of the pits. See how he does. Now, Timothy Saunders spent almost 30 seconds in the pits compared to Burkhardt's 19.4. Possible that Saunders might have taken tires, or is that not long enough?
I don't know. I don't think that's quite long enough. Tires typically are about 30 seconds on their own, so that is likely more of. I don't know if that could. They have a fast repair even, so I don't know how he could have added about 10 seconds out of the pit stop. Maybe one tire, but I doubt it.
That wouldn't seem very smart to do one tire. Talk about balance issues. That'll cause it.
Now, the thing we have to be careful of is these drivers are coming up on, or the leader's coming up on these drivers. So once they get within sight, now, DJ Alessandrini pops the cap and is into the pit stop.
And it looked like Ken Alzio wanted to follow him, but kind of got juked out there just a little bit. Jack Chrissy's going to stay out, so will Thomas Layton. So this is going to create a little interesting dynamic here to have Alessandrini be the first one to hit pit road.
I have to wonder, that might have been an audible. Alessandrini all of a sudden realizing that he was catching those other lapped cars and decided to dive last minute. And certainly on the way in didn't look like he was planning on doing anything.
This is kind of Hausiel's view. Well, Hausiel had an opportunity to follow him, but he didn't. But now will Ken have to deal with some traffic. He's got the headlights already flashing just to get in their mirrors.
And right behind Layton is Racy on the back. They were hunting for some draft, trying to break it. Was Thomas Layton trying to get it?
Whoa! Chrissy sideways over the curbing, battles that McLaren back under control, but that was a big moment. Watch this as he heads through the bus stop. This is a tense moment.
Whoa. Wow, that was a big save. And I think Layton has his attention. I was trying to say that Chrissy was weaving. Layton was trying to follow him in the draft, which tells me that Layton really has gotten into Jack Chrissy's head just a little bit.
Alessandrini's pit stop was 16.1 in the pit box. Here's Hausiel catching that traffic. Now, Hausiel would be probably pretty silly not to hit pit lane this time. Traffic he's going to have to deal with.
He's definitely going to have to hit the pit lane this time if he wants to, but the fastest pit stops have been 15.7. He has the opportunity to make up close to a half a second on the pit lane if he absolutely nails everything about this pit stop and pulls the right straw out of the cup from the iRacing randomizer when you're sitting still in that pit box. And yes, he is on the pit in, but that was very conservative. Very conservative.
Well, he did the right thing. Rules-wise, you're supposed to stay to the right of that blend line on the way in, but in iRacing, that doesn't matter. All you have to do is hit the cones. So Hausiel in the real world did the right thing, but in the sim here, might have cost himself a little bit of time. But Alessandrini spent 39.3 between the cones in the pits. We'll see if Hausiel can do any better.
Just based on that pit entry, I don't know that it's going to happen, but we will see. Alessandrini is working his way through turn number 10. There he is. It's going to be close, but again, I mean, worst case, he's going to come out right behind and still have 20 minutes or so to try to make his move.
So Alessandrini up onto the front straight. He is sailing at a 16.7 slower for Hausiel. And 0.7 of a second slower in the lane in general. He's going to come out right behind Alessandrini. Not a significant loss, but no gain either.
And that gap you see right there is no doubt in my mind the difference between the aggressiveness of entry between the two drivers. They didn't lose a time on pit lane. I bet, like you said, the pit lane delta almost identical, but Halcyon did lose a bit more of it coming in conservatively.
Yeah, again, he lost 7/10 between the cones, but again, I think he just lost more time in general. He might have been actually better off. Whoa, big bobble there on cold tires. That's going to cost him even more. And now Chrissy and Leighton, look at the size of the BMW and the mirrors that McLaren. Maybe try to melt the hood line down a little bit.
Could use it.
Resculpt it.
So now this will get very interesting. Both drivers, I would assume, have to pit this lap to make it to the end on fuel, or to not run out of fuel right now, I should say. But has Leighton been able to save any fuel? Will they get any position changes on their way in?
Here they come. Well, Leighton was really conservative there. He could have gained a lot more time. That's why I like following someone in, Tom, is because you can use them slowing down as sort of a gauge to charge the entry a little bit. And worst case scenario, you run in the back of them and slow yourself down. So I mean, that's a good method too. I've seen a handful of people do that.
Yeah, the good old Gran Turismo rule.
Yeah. So off into the box. And these guys are not going to beat Alessandrini or Halcyon off pit lane, but they could gain. And I'm most interested in, well, even Thomas Leighton, even if he goes significantly quicker, he's just running out of laps. As we get 10 laps to go, about 18 minutes and 20 seconds left. Across the line, Alessandrini runs a 47 flat. Halcyon follows him into turn 1. As for drivers on pit lane, Leighton is going to follow Chrissy out, and a big loss there for the 3 car. Lost 3/10 in the box and 6/10 of a second elsewhere in pit lane.
Wow, that's a big swing. I was going to say if Leighton had been able to come out anywhere close to Chrissy, he would have a great opportunity to make a move, but the combination of a great pit entry and fast pit stop for Chrissy has got him almost 2 seconds back to Thomas Leighton. Leighton's going to have to continue to charge.
Timothy Saunders in the number 81, Morgan Burkhardt. These guys have been going hard at it for a couple laps, but I think Burkhardt, whoop, bit of a bobble there. He was getting ready to strike, had the recoil back and ready to go, but just had a finger slip on the trigger there a little bit, shot too soon. Seems like he's struggling to commit to throttle there on corner exit again. That's a scary corner. I actually struggle with that corner here in the simulator more than any other corner. Also because the inside curb has a funky shape to it. If you turn in too early, you hammer it and go fly into the fence on the outside too.
And it's not a friendly curb, that's for sure.
No. They've changed them now. They're nicer now, but back when this track was scanned, they were nasty 6-inch high concrete.
Yeah, more like your neighborhood curb
that'll hurt.
than a racetrack curb.
Yeah.
This is the closest battle on the track. Burkhardt only 3/10 back. Halcyon is still within 1.5 seconds of Alessandrini, but I think that's enough for DJ to take a deep breath and probably bring this thing home pretty comfortably. But they'll settle back into that qualifying pace. Saunders runs really wide. Burkhardt's going to show the nose at the inside. They're side by side.
Through the carousel, door-to-door, Ferrari versus Lamborghini, the classic Italian matchup here on Watkins Glen. Now down into the turn 6, and Burkhardt goes the long way around and completes the pass. I don't think that's the last we'll see of this, but for now, it will be. Alessandrini working by some traffic. Louis Alessi in the 15th place, number 43, and now he's just putting lap cars between himself and Halcyon, which is only going to make this more difficult for Cam, but he's looking pretty ragged right now. I think he's kind of given up the ghost here a little bit. Not going to win the championship at this point unless DJ crashes, which was the case from the beginning. So just finish this one out and don't lose second to Jack Chrissy, which also isn't likely. So ride it out.
Yeah, this is the first we've seen of Louis Alessi, who is the red and yellow Ferrari on your screen. That is a lapped car, but he had actually pit from just behind, was it Giancarlo Schooler and Richard Spicer. He was up flirting with well into the top 10, closing in on top 5 pace even, and somehow when he pit, he was in the pit lane for a minute and close to a minute and a half. That's twice the amount of time sitting on pit lane for some reason for that driver.
I don't know exactly why that could have happened.
Maybe he did take tires by accident. That would make way more sense.
Yeah, and sometimes you can forget to uncheck them and you'll get stuck down there on pit lane. Once you commit, you can't tell the pit crew to stop once they're out there with the air gun. So
that's the thing about the sim racing is you are your own crew chief, engineer, strategist, crew essentially. You got to set up your own pit stop, and yeah, it's hard. This is really hard work.
And the broadcast team's doing everything too.
Ooh,
that's a big bobble, and here comes Halcyon. keeping an eye on Chrissy and Leighton in the background, because I think Leighton, well, doesn't seem to have the magic that he had at the beginning or the end of the run. I wonder if this car just gets significantly better as the fuel burns off. In which case, had he known that, he might have pit earlier in the race to kind of keep that momentum more consistent over the run, because now he's going to heavily skew the second run in the first half of the fuel load, which is maybe not what he wanted to do.
Potentially, but he is going to spend a smaller ratio of the race. No, a larger ratio of the race with less fuel in the car by running it empty for one time and then emptying it again. So I agree that he might have been able to kind of put himself in a position where he would have just cruised by Jack Chrissy in the later stages. Ooh, Peter Lausen, big impact.
This is at the exit, the middle of turn 11.
That almost seemed like a couple of cars were involved. Those other two cars were going very slow.
He's going to get stuck here too again. I think he had also stalled it once he had looped it. Let's go back and see. This is likely just grabbing grass on either exit of 10 or the entry to 11.
No,
I'm going to guess
the other car is involved.
Whoa, 16th place car. That was that Adam?
I think it was Sly Stafford.
Sly Stafford, yeah. So he's going to catch the grass here on exit, go for a wiggle and a wobble, and catch Peter Lausen, who goes into the Armco, spins it around, and killed it. And that's what caused him to get stuck.
I'm pretty sure, was Peter Lausen up in the top 10 when that happened? I think that might have been between lapped cars.
Sly Stafford was a lap down. Now Peter Lausen is also a lap down, so yes, Lausen was running on the lead lap as we got, battle for second. Halcyon has fallen back into the clutches of Chrissy, and here comes the 6 car. How did that happen?
I have no idea. Halcyon was 4 seconds off pace last time through, and they're going to be side by side with lap cars and impact in the back. Jack Chrissy turns himself around. Leighton gets through. Who was that? Maybe John Willeman?
I think so.
Or Joe Camilleri.
We're going to have to go back and look at a couple of things here. Here's the incident again. That was the 13th place car, the 70th or the 13th of Willeman. Yes, you're right. But let's go back and find out what happened to Ken Halcyon. Oh, he looped it in turn number 9. Big bobble there. That was a rare mistake. I wonder, do you think it was catching lap traffic? No, he just got loose.
Well, this is definitely typical of the Lamborghini, the mid-engine platform. I find this car to be a bit hard to hold on to from that exact perspective. When you trail into the corner just a little bit wrong, it starts to slide, and then the driver aids kick in, and there is no saving it. So Halcyon certainly dodged a bullet with that awkward exchange between John Willeman and the McLaren of Jack Chrissy. But the first rule of wheel-to-wheel racing is you don't hit what you can see, and Jack Chrissy could clearly see that he was coming up on John Willeman. Unfortunately, Willeman can't disappear.
Don't hit what you can see.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
That's the Randy Popes rule. Don't hit what you can see. If you hit something you can see, what are you doing? But what this has done is brought Thomas Leighton all of a sudden into contention from 4th to a 2nd place. He's certainly got a podium going right now, but can he maybe attack Halcyon, who is dealing with a very, very stubborn Louis Alessi?
Yeah, Thomas Leighton is sitting really pretty. He's been quietly just kind of lingering tonight. That's going to pay off for him here at the end. Halcyon is super ragged, probably a little bit flustered, and he's still wiggling around. So that's going to leave him pretty vulnerable here to Thomas Leighton with 11 minutes to go.
Alessi's not going anywhere either. Look at this. Drag races him down the straightaway deep into turn 1. I don't think he plans on moving over, so that's going to bring these 2nd and 3rd place cars even closer together.
It's going to get really interesting on the climb up the hill because you can't really get by him here either. There's not going to be a significant speed difference here. Halcyon, he's offline in the marbles. Almost clips the Armco, and that's going to bring Leighton into the mix. He's going to go the long way around now into slipstream. And that was Halcyon maybe being a little bit impatient, moving offline. Well, again, the lap car in the way, but moved offline into the marbles, almost hit the fence. Yeah,
was being, I would say, impatient, but I also don't know that I agree with the lap car staying in the way when he's got the lead battle. Now is about to interrupt it for a 3rd time. Leighton charges into the outer loop.
Here we go.
And will now finally heed for Louis Alessi.
Man.
I would argue a lap too late, but
that was a cork in the bottle there, that's for sure.
Oh, man. Awkward, but Leighton picks up 2nd spot, and we think this BMW is likely the fastest car on the circuit. Can he maybe drive away from Halcyon?
I can tell you Halcyon's probably going to be pretty hot under the collar right now. So got to avoid over driving. As I say that, almost loses the car. He is driving on the edge right now and probably angry. Can't blame him.
The other update that did come into effect a couple months ago with these GT cars is they do flash heat the tires way worse, and Halcyon, having slid a couple times in the last couple of laps, Those rear tires especially are going to be up to temp just on the surface, and they're going to be slippery for a little bit. Halcyon needs to take a deep breath and keep the tension off those rear tires for a little bit if he wants to be able to stick with Thomas Layton, who's already pulled out half a second lead.
Yeah, with 6 laps to go this time through, I think there's still opportunity for Halcyon to get back to Layton, but he's going to need to kind of tidy some things up. But look at the run he gets there. I mean, I don't think this is over yet. And I do think Layton has been a bit more reserved in the last 5 or 6 laps. That's probably going to pay off for him here. No other major battles happening at the moment. This is the closest one. And definitely still volatile.
Wow, look at the Lamborghini drafting off the back of that big BMW. He's got a hole and a half to put that Lamborghini in. Can pick any lane he wants and still pick the draft up off the back of the BMW, and he uses all of it to suck right back up to the back of Thomas Layton. He has cooled the tires off at this point, I'm sure, so the car will be more composed at this point. And I agree, with 6 laps to go, he's got at least a chance.
Well, BMW's got the aerodynamics of a hippopotamus, so I think Halcyon's going to have a pretty good opportunity to get by in the cheese wedge-shaped Lamborghini.
We got a baby hippopotamus and a baby shark?
Something like that.
I think that's what that livery is baby shark.
Oh, please don't bring that back into my world. I forgot that existed until right now. Thanks.
You're welcome. The other interesting battle is Richard Spicer has run down Giancarlo Schooler really, really fast for 6th and 7th. Those are a pair of Ferraris, and Schooler in the red, Spicer in the blue.
That's far from over as well, but I think this one's a little bit more volatile in the closing moments of this one. 5 laps to go next time by, or thereabouts. 7 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. Alessandrini 6.7 seconds clear of this battle right here, which is getting hot in every corner.
How tentative Halcyon was coming up into turn 9 that lap. I think he does not want to poke the bear that is turn 9 anymore after that half spin that he had. He can't afford another one of those. He does have 17 seconds back to Andrew Pallotta, but that would be the final nail in the coffin of his 3rd place finish for this race. Layton, though, pulling out even more, essentially matching lap times last time through.
Bringing up the nail in the coffin reminds me, there was a commentator who had a big flub on air where he said, that hammering you hear is the sound of the final coffin and the nail, and he jumbled it all up, but it was very, very funny.
Problems.
Problems. Oh, man. NASCAR on ESPN. Those were the days.
It's tough to be live recorded and not make mistakes.
Trust me. I'm very well aware of that. You remember the half-mile one?
No.
I was trying to say Martinsville, the half-mile paperclip, and I just lost it and just air kept coming.
Puffing?
I was like, the half-mile and it's...
I think that's what Ken Halcyon just did, leaving that corner, is the grass. He's on it right now, trying to stick with Layton. Layton was the quickest. No, Halcyon was actually a little bit quicker, both quicker than Alessandrini, but I mean, nearest makes no difference. They were all 47 zeros. Fascinated
by, I want to watch this again. Watch the way that Layton enters this next corner here. I'm going to fast forward here just a little bit. He just throws the car in, turns in, and just chucks it.
Yep.
I mean,
But look how long the brake lights are on. He is trail braking until the cows come home in that BMW to get it to rotate up the hill, which is what you got to do in these cars to keep the nose hooked up, and you got a ton of terrain there to make it work.
It's fascinating. He just jumps on the brakes and just jerks it to the inside, and it just goes.
Ooh.
This is a battle for 8th spot. Danny Gross all over the back of Elias Roman. Gross was dropped down the order somehow.
I think they actually just swapped spots. Elias Roman might have just picked up 8th from Danny Gross, who, remember, was up as far as 5th at one point.
A little wide there on entry to 6. Opens the door. Gross almost found a way back to the inside. Whoa, there's an opportunity again. Just sticks the nose in. And he's not waiting for anybody to answer the door. He's just going to go for it and jam it through. While all this is happening, 2nd place is less than a 10th. Layton goes defensive into the bus stop, moves back online at the last possible moment. And while they're doing this, last time by, they were actually on pace with Alessandrini, which is pretty amazing.
About a half a lap ago, we saw Halcyon flashing the lights on the Lamborghini. He was the quickest car on the track last time through, so he's got the pace to make a move. It's just whether or not he can position himself to make one is the big question.
Running out of laps. Next time by will be 3 to go. Just under, well, just over 10 miles.
I gotta say, from watching for 50+ minutes, I don't see where Hausiel might be able to make a move. Unfortunately, he is kind of the most ragged-looking driver of all the cars that we've been watching closely, so he's taking the biggest risks, but I just don't see a spot where he's consistently faster than other drivers, where Leighton seems to be really fast in these last couple corners. Alessandrini was certainly fast in turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Hausiel tonight be really good at clinging to the back of people, but we haven't really seen him actually pass anybody yet. And I think that's a crucial distinction between a couple of the other drivers that we've seen kind of throughout the day. They've been able to make passes. Now, Ken's mighty fast, but he hasn't actually been able to turn that into a maneuver. Danny Gross has just lost it at the exit of the bus stop. Let's go. We're only going to go back a little farther than that. I think he's just going to catch curbing a little awkwardly here. One bounce, two bounce, red bounce, blue bounce, and there he goes. It's that last curb that always catches you.
Oh, and the tank slap up the track the other direction is the insult to injury there. Dave FITZGERALD did pick up the spot for 9th as Gross was recovering.
Oh, that put Leighton offline. But unfortunately, offline here at the bus stop isn't really that far offline. But Hausiel has the right idea. You start putting pressure in places that will make Tom move the car off the road. That got tight on corner exit. Now a big dive up here into turn 6. Leighton defensive. Leaves 3/4 of the car width, not wide enough for the Lamborghini.
That BMW is also very good on the brakes, so he's got to really get alongside. He's not going to be able to just throw the Lamborghini up the inside and make it stick. Leighton, you can see just how deep he can dive in. You mentioned it a couple laps ago as well, so really Hausiel might have to get it done with a run into from a previous corner down a straightaway more so than in the braking zones.
Well, I liked what he did the last couple corners. He's got Tom Leighton looking in the mirror. He is mirror driving, not looking out the windshield at all. It's putting him offline and making him make mistakes, and that's what Ken has got to do. I don't think you can just follow him and pass him the old-fashioned way. You're going to have to kind of psych him out a little bit, and he was doing that for 3 or 4 corners, but that might have been his only opportunity unless he can get another good run like that.
Well, you're right. Leighton was pinching the entries of the corners all the way through the boot. Now is even running wide through turn 10, so the pressure is on. They're going to be coming to 2 to go as they cross onto the front straightaway this time.
Yeah, 2 laps to go for the race leader, Alessandrini. 6 seconds up the road. Hausiel closing here. Good run towards turn number 1, but again, I don't think he's going to get enough overlap into the brake zone to do anything with it.
He can afford to make a move into or make a look into turn 1 that doesn't work because he's going to have the draft all the way up this straightaway. The other thing is they're going to have some lap cars. Look at that, a Ferrari and maybe another Lamborghini up the road just a little. No, a McLaren up the road a bit. Oh, Leighton gets loose at the top of the S's. That's a big wiggle, and Hausiel, nowhere to go with it.
Yeah, not close enough. They're going to catch this lap traffic at a very awkward point. Not quite going to do 3 wide. They're both by them into the bus stop. Yeah, Hausiel's offline though. Ooh, that's dicey.
Very good heads up from Sly Stafford to notice them coming.
And now off into the boot. There's that McLaren. That's Adam Crandall just up the road. And this is where Hausiel seemed like he was a little bit better. We'll see right there through the middle of turn number 6, closes the gap. Now if he can get Tom offline again, he can compromise his exit, but lap car might do it for him. Big dive up the inside into turn number 7. That was very scary. Crandall on the brakes early to get out of the way, and nobody saw it coming. That's like a traffic accident in Chicago. People pulling out of the way of a stop line of cars, almost rear-end him, and here's Hausiel the run. Not enough, though. It's like he gets close, he pulls out, and then the air slams into him. And it just stops you dead. It's like Stafford got off the track in the background. Up front, though, Alessandrini with no dramas to speak of. Will be coming to the white flag this time by. There's the white flag now from the starter stand. Finally glad they got this animation fixed in spectator mode. One more time around. Why are you laughing?
Just the way he waves the flag, it always makes me think of that video, and it cracks me up. So they're nose to tail. This is maybe the biggest gap Leighton has had for the last couple of laps. That might actually work to Ken Hausiel's favor in the Lamborghini. He's got a bit of a buffer up this hill. Maybe he can make a charge.
I'm just not sure if that Lambo's got enough rigmarole to finish this gap and then build another one alongside him. I think he's too far back. I think the boot, he's going to have to get creative with it. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, quick look back. Here's PALLOTTA and Jack Chrissy fighting for 4th. We'll have to come back to that one because that's going to get pretty spicy pretty quickly. Oh, right now, touch and a push.
We don't know how Andrew Pallotta caught Jack Chrissy. They were nowhere near each other a while back.
Oh, trouble.
Now,
Halcyon spun, crashed. Going back to 4th place. Pallotta's through. But for Ken Halcyon, drama in the bus stop. Here's a look. Bounce the curb.
Oh,
tank slapper.
Yeah, started back at the second curb. As soon as he turned in for the left-hander, the back end started to rotate, and that's where that Lamborghini just does not recover at all.
Yeah, that's going to drop him out of a chance to get up to second. As long as he can limp it back, he will still land on the podium, albeit probably disappointed with the way that one ended. But for DJ Alessandrini, he runs things to win them. He doesn't like finishing second. He doesn't like finishing third. He'll only take a trophy, and it's a good thing because he's really good at doing that. DJ Alessandrini will win the Track Night in America entry for 2021 as he comes out of turn number 11 here at Watkins Glen and wins in the season finale and the championship for the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League GT3 Group 2 cars here at the Glen. Tom Layton, second place, 7 seconds back, and Ken Halcyon is going to bring home third on the bottom step of the podium after a frustrating way to end. Jack Chrissy, slow. He spun in the last couple of corners. Got loose up onto the curbing, got into the barrier.
Yeah, that car looked very ragged in the bus stop that previous lap, and actually Pallotta was able to get by him back when he got into the back of John Williman at turn 1. We didn't pay attention to him long enough to see where he ended up, but he actually lost the position way back there, ran Pallotta down, and didn't quite have enough car left to do anything with it.
DJ Alessandrini celebrating with burnouts. I'm sure he will enjoy the prizing, but also just winning. He could be racing for a sticker and he would still be celebrating right now. Well, he did it. Maybe to no one's surprise, but certainly less of a surprise than Murphy Nichols taking home the championship of the Mustangs last week. Again, another congratulations to him. We weren't able to talk to him last week, unfortunately, but again, wishing him the best. With DJ off track and the results now through, let's have a quick look at our race results here, Tom. And again, Layton and Halcyon had a pretty good battle. Pallotta dropped out, jumped up to 4th. Jack Chrissy back to 5th in the closing moments of this race. Things sort of fell down after that pit stop.
Yeah, flawless performance from Alessandrini, and really Thomas Layton to run his own race in that way. Knew maybe in the beginning stages that he didn't have the pace, but ran so consistent, and when the race came to him, he was in a position to capitalize for that second spot. Ken Halcyon, we should say, was the championship winner in the MX-5s from Group 1, so he got his as well. He will get a Track Night in America entry from that, but comes home third today, second in the championship between the rest of the drivers around him. Pallotta just tip of the hat for the Ford. And John Collar Schooler, how about that? 6th place from 23rd with no time in qualifying, really comes home. That's a great drive.
It was a really solid run all the way from the back of the grid. Dave Fitzgerald, Danny Gross coming home in the top 10. Move on now to the next page. Have a look here. Morgan Burkhardt comes home in 11th. Timothy Saunders 12th. Louis Alessi 13th. Crandall 15th. Peter Lausen ends up 17th after some crash damage. We've got Tom Layton now to join us, but also we've got Murphy Nichols, who I think we should talk to. Hey, Murphy, after winning the championship last week, we didn't get a chance to talk to you, but you did win in the Mustang category last week. Congratulations on picking up a race win and the championship. Take us through your season. Glad you could join us here.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for just now coming. And I wish I was able to make the race, but I had other more important stuff going on. But yeah, that race, I felt really confident going into it. I put in a lot of practice, a lot of time trying to figure out every corner, especially since it was one of those first tracks when I got in. I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. But I slowly started to learn it, and I focused, and I just took the time, learned the track, learned what I can do, I finally got the fuel right, because I know I had issues with that previous race. But I was so glad that I finally got my first win in this season, and just as the season as a whole, I tried taking it as clean as I could. I didn't want to do anything stupid because I've had some instances in the past where I've done that, and I just wanted to race consistently, finish as high or as close to the top as I could. And I remember when I first started the season, I told myself, all right, if I can get one podium, I would be happy. But not only did I get a podium, I won the championship, and with that, I couldn't be more happy.
Oh, it was a pretty thrilling event last week or a couple weeks ago to watch you win that. For your first win in the series, but of course this is the end of the 2021 spring season. Can we expect to see you back come the fall or even the late summer? And what's on the plate for the season for you in the real world? What you got coming up this year?
I would love to be able to claim that track night in America. As far as where I'm going to do it, it'll probably be Dominion or just some other track that opens up. But as far as the virtual season, absolutely, you will see me back here, hopefully stronger and better than ever.
Murphy, thanks so much for talking to us. Congratulations again. And we'll see you next time here on Sim TV. Appreciate you coming on and joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Talk now with our third place finisher. It was Ken House-Seal who came home in third place after a valiant effort and some battles and a bit of a mistake there in the closing moments. Ken, no championship for the GT3 series, but a hard-fought effort tonight. Take us through your night.
Yeah, I was sort of surprised I pulled one out at the end of qualifying, finally put together a lap, and then mostly just followed DJ around, which was a ton of fun. I had the pace, but I ran too much wing, and there was no way I was going to get by in a straight line without some crazy nonsense happening. So tried to make it happen. A couple little mistakes after the pit, and then the car had a random snap spin exiting the boot, and that's all she wrote. Then it was just a mess from there.
Well, it still was a podium at the end of the day, Ken. So a third place, not too bad. Hopefully we'll see you back in the next season. And thanks for joining us. Nice run tonight.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Ken.
Tom's here. He says hi.
Hi, Tom.
We'll move on now to Tom Layton, who came home in second place in the number 3 BMW from quietly hanging out there in the bottom half of the top 5 to creeping up when things got messy. Second place. Tom, got to be pretty happy with that. We'll come back to Tom Layton here in just a little bit. We'll try DJ Alessandrini up next. DJ, the winner of the race and the championship. Maybe to nobody's surprise, DJ. Hard-fought race, but drove away. Take us through it.
I mean, those guys kept me honest. I really just had to get into the zone, and I had one of those drives where the rest of the world did not exist, and those are my favorite drives. I really enjoyed that, and I had a lot of fun, and I'm real sweaty.
Well, real sweaty means that you did an effective job tonight. Got that Track Night in America entry. Where are you planning on doing that? Is that already on the calendar circled?
I give those to the owner of the car that I'm competing in SCCA Time Trial Nationals. It's kind of my way to pay for him. He has a racetrack right next to his house that has Track Night in America, so he gets to use all of them, and I'm happy to give him more.
Well, that's awesome, DJ. Hey, well, thanks for talking to us. Congratulations. And I guess we'll see you at the next one, which might be a little while for us, but we'll see you around.
All right, yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Kyle.
All right, thanks, DJ. Have a good night. Try Tom Layton one more time. Hey, Tom Layton, you got a copy? Don't have you on the mic, Tom. Let him sort that out real quick, and we'll give him another moment to get that rolling. But in the meantime, Tom O'Gorman, final thoughts. Oh, hey, we got Tom Layton. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Hey, thanks.
Well, tonight, from kind of hanging out in the bottom half of the top 5 to coming home second, things got a little messy in front of you in the closing moments. Take us through your night and driving up to P2.
Yeah, I felt like the pace was there. Maybe the consistency wasn't, but just kind of got lucky that some lapped cars slowed down or took out the cars in front of me, and then just ended up having a really good battle with Ken at the end, just spending 5 or 6 laps trying to make my car as wide as possible.
Well, he certainly did that. A successful season, perhaps. Can we expect to see you back next time?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Tom. Hey, well, congratulations. A strong run tonight, P2 in the BMW M4 GT3. Thanks for chatting. We'll see you next time. All right, Tom. Now, final thoughts on the season and the race. Pretty straightforward race from my perspective, Tom, but the season is over and always potential for things to come back. But at least for the short term, this is it for the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League.
Yeah, I think we'll miss it for sure. This is one of my favorite leagues to commentate, and I especially love when we let the proper GT3 machinery get a proper 60-minute race, let everything breathe, and you get those exciting moments that you could never predict, like we saw tonight. that allowed Thomas Layton to come up for a second spot. Ken House-Steele home in third. Congratulations to the championship winners in both groups 1 and 2, Ken House-Steele, Murphy Nichols, and DJ Alessandrini. I just love calling these guys.
Well, it was certainly a really fun season. A little bit of mixing up some different tracks, some different formats and different classing, but again, a really solid season here for the DC Region Virtual Racing League. That's going to do it for us here tonight and for the season for the Washington, D.C. Region SCCA. I'm Kyle Heyer with Tom O'Gorman. We'll see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow night for the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park to finish off their season. Really excited for that one. 45-minute race tomorrow. Twitch.tv/Porsche. We'll see you there.